Gobet from Gracia. This is the Rorshok, Georgia update from the 23rd of May, 2024. Quick summary of what's going down in Georgia. Wednesday the 22nd, protests in Georgia against the Russian law grew even more intense. Now there's a big demonstration planned for Friday the 24th. As we discussed, the ruling faction of Otsneba illegally inserted in the third reading that individuals, not just organizations, must register and include detailed personal information. Protesters know that this invades their privacy and believe that the law will be used to target them, as indeed it will. This will also allow the ruling party to use the law to punish people who disagree with the government, since it will make it easier for the government to track and harass activists, journalists, and anyone who speaks out. Now, the protests are not just about the law itself, but about how the law can be used to silence and intimidate people. In related news, on Saturday the 18th, President Salome Zurabashvili vetoed the law, calling it a Russian-style law that goes against European standards. However, the Georgian Dream, or Otsneba, who currently controls the parliament, can override her veto because the parliament can overturn a presidential veto with a simple majority vote. Since Otsneba has the majority, they could push the law through despite the president's veto. Adding to the tension, on Monday the 20th, Politico reported that the U.S. Congress would introduce a draft bill that could freeze assets and impose visa bans on Georgian government officials who back the Russian law. The draft law targets ruling party lawmakers, law enforcement officers, and possible Russian agents in Georgia. It also calls for top U.S. officials to report on political influence, corruption, and suspected Russian and Chinese intelligence activities in Georgia. James O'Brien, the U.S. Assistant Secretary of State for European and Eurasian Affairs, warned that if the Russian law passes, the U.S. could impose financial and travel restrictions on those responsible. This law will severely impact Georgia's relations with the U.S. and its chance of joining the EU, with both Brussels and Washington expressing strong opposition to the legislation. On Tuesday, the 21st, the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development, or EBRD, honored Georgia for its successful economic reforms during its annual meeting. They said Georgia is improving its business environment, attracting foreign investment, highlighted reforms for areas like tax policy, financial regulation, infrastructure development, making Georgia one of the most business-friendly countries in the region. EBRD's remarks aim to attract investors to Georgia and help the economy. Government said it is committed to supporting these reforms to ensure sustained economic growth and stability. This recognition comes as part of EBRD's regular review of the countries it supports. Unlike the EBRD, has, however, been clear in its condemnation of the Russian law. Speaking of banks, on Thursday the 16th, President Salome Zurabashvili met with 5 candidates for the board of the National Bank of Georgia. This meeting is part of the process to select new board members for the board now that the ruling party completely controls the board and the board is no longer independent. These members help decide the country's monetary policy to keep the financial system stable. President discussed the vision for the bank, focusing on maintaining financial stability, controlling inflation, support of economic growth. The final decision on the new board members is expected soon. After all, when has government-controlled central banks ever caused any economic problems anywhere? On Sunday the 19th, the government mentioned on their Facebook page that they are planning to introduce new educational reforms to improve public schools. These changes are set to start in September, will focus on more STEM subjects and digital literacy, taking into account future job market, technological advancements, blah, blah, blah. Teachers are expected to receive additional training to implement these changes. The reforms will also include plans to update school facilities, provide more resources for students, that's key at pre-election, and specific details on these resources are not yet confirmed. It's all part of the government's desperate attempt to try and get people talking about something other than the encroachment on civil liberties via the Russian law. On Friday the 17th, the Family Purity Day procession took place in Tbilisi. This event supports traditional family values and has sparked debates about LGBTQ rights. Procession included speeches by religious leaders and activities promoting family unity, or so they said. Government officials participated in the march, showing support for the procession's stance. Opposing groups argued that the event marginalizes the LGBT community and reinforces fascist ideology. Everybody is well aware that this day of spectacular hypocrisy is pushed by the same party that when some of its own members left their party, the ruling regime oversaw a public release of videos of them having sex. That's how much they care about family values. On some weather updates, on Monday the 20th, heavy rains caused bad flooding in Samegrelo and Guria in western Georgia. The government sent emergency services to help people and fix damages. Many roads and bridges were washed away, making it hard for people to get around. Flooding also damaged homes and farmland, causing significant losses for local residents. Authorities are working to provide temporary shelter and financial assistance to those affected. Heavy rains are part of a larger pattern of extreme weather that has been affecting the region, causing concerns about the impact of climate change in Georgia. Switching to cultural events, on Friday the 17th, a new art exhibition entitled Modern Georgia opened in Tbilisi. It features contemporary works by Georgian artists, looks at themes of identity, culture, and change. The exhibition runs until the end of June. Artists showcase their latest creations, which include paintings, sculptures, multimedia installations. Shows how Georgian art is changing and growing, mixing with the country's history and today's issues. Wednesday the 22nd, the Georgia National Tourism Administration took part in the IMEX exhibit in Frankfurt, Germany. It showed Georgia's culture, nature, tourism facilities, highlighted the key attractions such as wine region, Kakheti, and the ancient cave city of Uplitsikhe, as well as Tbilisi. Continuing on about wine, on Saturday the 18th, a report from the National Wine Agency of Georgia revealed that the country's wine industry is seeing a significant boost in exports since the beginning of this year. Wine exports have increased by 15%. Major markets in Europe and Asia showing growing demand. Government is supporting local winemakers to further boost international sales by participating in international wine fairs, improving production standards, and promoting Georgian wine as a premium product. Wrap up this edition, a new bypass road is being built on the side of the Alazani Valley in Kakheti. Project includes a 2-lane asphalt concrete road and 6 bridges. Currently 13 kilometers of the 17-kilometer Bakurtsikhe and Snori bypass road have been covered with asphalt concrete, and construction is ongoing. This new road will connect the Tbilisi Bakurtsikhe Lagodechi and Azerbaijani border international road with the existing domestic road, improving travel and transportation in Kakheti. And that's it for this week. Thanks for joining us. We appreciate all our listeners on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and other platforms, especially those who subscribe and share the shows with their friends and loved ones. Is that you? If you ever want to share an episode by sending a small MP3 file to someone through a messaging app, you can download every episode directly from our website at Rorshok.com/Georgia by clicking the cloud next to the episode. Link is also available in the show notes. Nachlandis.